Look at this grape. My father Ronald screamed, holding it up to the chandelier light like it was a diamond. This is class. Gabrielle. This is what success looks like. He was not talking about the $5,000 mortgage payment I had wired that morning to stop the foreclosure. He was talking about the fruit basket my sister's boyfriend, Julian, had brought. Why can't you be more like your sister? He sneered. She brings joy. You just bring a mood. The insult physically hurt. He was eating a $200 grape in a dining room I had just paid to save. Before I tell you what I did with my phone under the table while he was still yelling, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And what time is it for you right now? I want to see how far this story travels. I looked around the table, and the smell of the roast beef was almost suffocating. It was prime rib, slow roasted with herbs. The kind of meal that cost $300 just for the meat. I knew exactly how much it cost, because the butcher shop charge was still pending on my bank app. My mother, Cynthia, was carving it like she was the Queen of England. Offering the best slice to Julian? Julian sat there in a suit that was a little too shiny, checking a watch that was a little too big, acting like he was doing us a favor by existing. He had brought a fruit basket, a wooden crate filled with pears and grapes wrapped in gold foil. My parents treated it like the crown jewels. Then there was my sister, Sabrina. She was wearing a new silk dress, emerald green, backless, absolutely stunning. She twirled in her chair, catching the light. Julian bought this for me, she announced, beaming at him. He has such good taste. Doesn't he, Julian? Just smiled that oily, practiced smile and shrugged. Only the best for you, babe, he said. My mother clapped her hands together. Oh, Julian, you spoil her. See, Ronald, that is how a man treats a woman. He doesn't count pennies. I felt a vibration in my pocket. I didn't need to look to know what it was, but I did anyway. It was a notification from my credit card company. A charge for $580 at the exact boutique where that green dress came from. Time stamped at 4 this afternoon. Authorized user, Sabrina. She hadn't just bought it with my money. She was sitting 3 feet away from me, wearing my money, and giving the credit to a man who had contributed nothing but pears. It wasn't the lie that hurt. I was used to the lies. It was the logic behind it. This was the currency of vanity. I realized then that to my parents, my money was offensive. My $5,000 transfer that morning was an insult because it reminded them that they were broke. It was utility money. It was plumbing. It was necessary. But it was dirty. Nobody applauds the person who unclogs the toilet. But Julian, his fruit basket was vanity money. It was useless, decorative, and purely for show. It made them feel like aristocrats receiving a tribute. They loved him because his gift required nothing from them but applause. They hated me because my gift required them to admit they needed saving. Actually, I said, my voice cutting through the laughter, that charge hit my card at 4 o'clock today. Julian didn't buy that dress. Sabrina, I did. The silence was instant. It wasn't the silence of confusion. It was the silence of a play being interrupted by someone in the audience. Sabrina froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. Julian shifted, suddenly very interested in his water glass. My mother's face went tight, the smile dropping like a stone. "Excuse me," my father asked, his voice low and dangerous. I held up my phone. The notification was still glowing on the screen. $580. Neiman Marcus. Unless Julian is paying my credit card bill this month. He didn't buy anything. I expected shame. I expected Sabrina to blush. Or Julian to apologize. I was so naive. My father slammed his hand on the table, making the silverware jump. "You are so jealous." He spat. "Look at you. You can't stand to see your sister happy for 1 second. So what if she used the card 'We are a family. We share.' But you have to make everything a transaction. You have to ruin the mood because you're bitter that nobody is buying you dresses. He wasn't attacking the lie. He was attacking the truth. He preferred the fantasy where his daughter was dating a rich tycoon to the reality where his other daughter was keeping him out of a homeless shelter. Learn from your sister, he yelled, pointing a finger at me. She knows how to be loved. You just know how to count. I stood up. I didn't flip the table. I didn't scream back. I just picked up my purse. My mother stood up, knocking her chair back. If you walk out that door, Gabrielle, she shrieked, her voice cracking. Don't you dare come back. You are ruining this family. You are selfish and cold and ungrateful. I looked at her. I looked at the roast beef I bought. I looked at the dress I bought. I looked at the house I was paying for. And I realized she was right. I was cold. I was ice. I walked to the door. I didn't slam it. Slamming the door is a request for attention. It's a noise that begs for someone to come after you. I closed it quietly, with a soft click, like I was leaving a funeral. The walk to my car felt long. The Buckhead air was humid and thick, smelling of jasmine and old money. I got into my sedan, a 4-year-old Honda that my father called an embarrassment. I sat there in the dark driveway for a moment, listening to the engine hum. My hands were shaking, vibrating against the steering wheel. But my mind was crystal clear. It was a terrifying, beautiful clarity. It was the feeling of a contract expiring. I pulled my phone out of my purse. The screen glowed in the dark car. First, I opened my banking app. I navigated to the recurring transfers tab. There it was. Parental support, monthly, $5,000. Scheduled for the first of every month. Status active. I tapped edit. I tapped cancel series. A warning popped up. Are you sure this will stop all future payments? I didn't hesitate. I tapped yes. Status terminated. Next. I opened my credit card app. I found the authorized user section. Sabrina. I scrolled through the transactions. The dress. The spa day. The brunch. I selected the card. Report issue. The options came up. Lost. Stolen. Unauthorized. I selected unauthorized. The app asked for confirmation. I confirmed. Card locked. Fraud investigation initiated. Finally. I dialed a number I had saved in my contacts. It was late. But the concierge service for the luxury cruise line was 24/7. Hello. This is Patricia. How may I assist you? Hi. Patricia. This is Gabrielle. I need to cancel a booking. The confirmation number is ending in 458. Oh. The Golden Anniversary Cruise for Mr. and Mrs. Ronald. That is a non-refundable deposit. Ma'am. I know. I said, my voice steady. But I paid for it. And I am exercising the cancellation clause for the travel insurance I purchased. Please process a full refund to the original form of payment. There was a pause. Are you sure? Ma'am, it's only 3 weeks away. I am sure. Cancel it all. The suite. The excursions. The private dining package. Everything. It took 10 minutes. When I hung up, the silence in the car wasn't lonely anymore. It didn't feel empty. It felt like the first breath of fresh air I had taken in 5 years. I put the car in reverse and backed out of the driveway. I didn't look back at the house. I didn't look back at the window where the lights were still on, where they were probably still eating my roast beef and drinking Julian's wine. I just drove. For 7 days. My phone was quiet. It wasn't the silence of peace. It was the silence of arrogance. My parents and Sabrina weren't worried. They thought I was throwing a tantrum. They thought I was pouting in my little apartment and that I would eventually calm down, apologize, and turn the money tap back on. They didn't realize I hadn't just closed the tap. I had dismantled the plumbing. Then came Friday night. I was at home, reading a book, when my phone lit up with a notification from my banking app. It popped up like the punchline to a joke I had been waiting a week to hear. Attempted transaction. The garden room. Amount, $1,200. Status declined. Card inactive. I closed my eyes and let myself imagine the scene. The garden room is one of the most pretentious spots in Buckhead. I pictured Sabrina, glowing in another outfit she couldn't afford, ordering bottle service, laughing at Julian's jokes. I pictured the bill arriving. I pictured her handing over the heavy metal card, my card with that practiced bored nonchalance she had perfected. And then, the waiter returning. The quiet whisper, "I'm sorry, miss. The card has been reported lost or stolen. Do you have another form of payment?" Sabrina didn't have another form of payment. She didn't have a job. She didn't have savings. She had me. And I wasn't there. Julian had to pay. That was the moment the illusion died. Julian wasn't dating Sabrina. He was dating her lifestyle. He was dating the endless shopping sprees, the picking up of tabs, the luxury that seemed to flow from a bottomless well. He was a parasite, attached to a parasite. And when the host body dried up, he didn't stick around to mourn. He dumped her via text message the next morning at 9 o'clock. "This isn't working for me. You aren't who you said you were. Don't contact me." Whatever panic Sabrina felt then, it must have been suffocating. She was broke, dumped, and humiliated. So, she did the only thing she knew how to do. She tried to monetize the vanity. She took the diamond tennis bracelet Julian had given her for Valentine's Day, the one my mother had fawned over for weeks, and drove to a high-end pawn shop on Piedmont Road. She needed cash to maintain the facade until she could bully me into fixing it. I know this because the pawn shop owner is a client of my company. I heard about it through the grapevine later. But the details were brutal. The broker didn't even need a loop. He took one look at the glittering stones and pushed it back across the counter. "It's glass, honey," he told her. "High-grade cubic zirconia. Settings are brass. It's worth maybe $40 at a kiosk." The Birkin bag. Super fake. The Cartier watch, a Chinatown special. The castle didn't just collapse. It dissolved. Julian was a mirror image of my family. He was all surface. No substance. He had used a fake watch to impress a fake heiress, who was spending stolen money. It was a perfect circle of fraud. But here is the thing about narcissists: they cannot process their own failures. When the roof caves in, they don't look at the rot in the beams. They look for the person who pointed it out. They didn't blame Julian for being a con artist. They didn't blame themselves for being greedy. Gullible fools who valued a shiny lie over their own survival. They blamed me. In their twisted logic, if I hadn't canceled the card, Julian wouldn't have had to pay. If Julian hadn't paid, he wouldn't have seen they were broke. If he hadn't seen they were broke, he wouldn't have left. Therefore, I hadn't just cut them off. I had sabotaged Sabrina's happiness. I had destroyed her future marriage out of jealousy. The silence broke on Sunday. My phone didn't just ring. It screamed. But it wasn't them calling. It was everyone else. It was Sunday morning. I was sitting on my balcony with a cup of coffee, watching the Atlanta skyline shimmer in the heat. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't dreading a phone call. I wasn't calculating how much overtime I needed to work to cover a cruise deposit. I felt light. I felt free. Then, my phone buzzed. And buzzed again. And again. A solid, vibrating drone against the metal table. I picked it up. 17 notifications in 2 minutes. All from the extended family group chat, the one I had muted but hadn't left yet. "Aunt Martha, I cannot believe you. To steal from your own parents, after everything they sacrificed. Cousin Greg, that is low. Gabby, even for you, elder abuse is a crime. Uncle Bob, we are all praying for your soul. You need to return that money immediately." I stared at the screen, blinking. Steal elder abuse. Then came the voicemail from my mother. Her voice was unrecognizable, not the screeching banshee from the dinner, but a tearful, trembling victim perfectly calibrated for an audience. "Gabrielle, We know you took the $5,000 from the retirement account. We know you were jealous of Sabrina's engagement. Just bring the money back, and we won't call the police." I sat frozen, stunned by the audacity. They had flipped reality completely. I hadn't stolen anything. I had simply stopped giving them my own money. In their version, I was their financial manager who drained their account out of spite, sabotaging Sabrina's relationship. They weren't just lying. They were constructing a legal threat to force the money back. Panic hit first, then faded into clarity. This was an extinction burst, the escalation that happens when a source of control is cut off. They weren't powerful. They were desperate. The mortgage was due. The money was gone. Since charm and bullying failed, they tried terror. "We won't call the police." That was the tell. If I had stolen anything, they already would have. I didn't respond. I saved every message, every voicemail, then left my apartment and went to a lawyer. Sterling and Vance didn't handle family drama. They handled hostile takeovers. Mr. Sterling reviewed my file, unimpressed, until I slid a binder across the desk. Tab 3. The 2019 refinance. He frowned. "You've been paying the mortgage for years. That's usually a gift." Page 14. Paragraph 6. He stopped reading. Joint tenancy. With right of survivorship. 5 years earlier. My father needed my credit to save the house. He signed without reading, assuming I was just a guarantor. He never realized he gave me half the equity. "I want a partition by sale," I said. "List the house immediately." Sterling nodded. "If they can't buy you out, the court will force the sale." "They're not homeless," I said. "They're just losing access to my money." The papers were filed that afternoon. That night, they showed up at my door, frantic. I opened it 3 inches. The sheriff served us. My mother cried. "How could you do this?" "I'm liquidating an asset," I said calmly. "You have 30 days. Sabrina tried to smooth it over. "We didn't mean it. Let's go back to normal." "You accused me of a felony," I replied. Then I sent the receipts to the entire family group chat. 5 years of mortgage payments, credit card statements, and the dinner recording. Georgia is a one-party consent state. Phones started buzzing. My father listened to his own voice. Fear finally crossed his face. "You destroyed us," he whispered. "You said I had no value." I said, "So I'm selling the table." I closed the door. 30 days later, the house sold. The money hit my account by noon. I bought a new place fully mine. My parents lost their social standing. Sabrina works retail now. I don't feel guilty. I feel free. Tonight, I'm on my balcony with a cheap bottle of wine. It isn't fancy. It isn't impressive. But it tastes like victory.